I'm here again with Jon Majerowski from UFO on the Level. How you doing, Jon?
Hey, thanks for having me back. Hey, what's up? This is Nikkianajones, and I love that name, by the way. I think it's I think we should make a hip hop album called Nikkianajones. I just think it would be rad. But thank you again for hanging out and talking with me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. The Nikkianajones thing was I was like, I mean, it's not, my name's not Nikkiana, my name's Nikki, but that's Indiana Jones, like kind of spoof off, but because I'm really into ancient archaeology stuff, and then also fringe, anything fringe, UFO, kind of that kind of stuff. So I had for 2 years, my podcast was called Living Extraordinary, and I was like 100 subscribers, and it was going nowhere. And if you typed in Google or anything, Living Extraordinary podcast, you'd get like Lance Armstrong, like yellow wristbands or something. I was Living Strong or whatever. You couldn't find it at all. So I had to rebrand in the
That's all good, man. It works. It's cool. It works for me. It works for you. Shit. It's great. I like it.
How you explain this document thing that you sent me?
Wow. So there was a thing. So Jay from Project Unity, Jean-Luc and I did a couple podcast and videos called, we just named it the Dream Team, right? Just as a joke, right? It's called the Dream Team because we're just getting together. We did another one with the Undead Gaucho, so we labeled that the Dream Team. So, we just have people, we just kind of loosely get together and just hang out and talk, and so we were doing that. We got together recently with Ryan Bledsoe, Chris Bledsoe Sr.'s son, and Nick Hinton. And there was another Dream Team podcast. It was Esoterica Extravaganza. Yeah, that's the name of it, Esoterica Extravaganza. And that was, Jay came up with that, which is awesome. And we got together and just started chatting. Well, prior to that, we had a chat going, just John, Luke, Jay, myself, Ryan Bledsoe, and Nick Hinton, and we're trying to like coordinate. Hey, when are we going to get together? Is it going to be this? Oh, I'm booked that day. Let's, we're trying to get this together. It went on for like a month or whatever, maybe even more. And we got to the point where we were just chatting every day or whenever, just throwing stuff back and forth. Hey, did you guys see this? And so we're just kind of like talking. And one day, Brian's like, I got this document. He's like, this account showed up. It was a Twitter account. It was just a weird account. DM'd him. Started saying all this stuff, and then like sent the link to the document, and then Ryan like found it, downloaded the document, and then the account got deleted, which is gone. The account was there for like a day or something, like 48 hours or whatever, and it was gone. So Ryan gets this document, and he's like, hey, I got this document. And me being an information security guy, I'm like, don't open it. Like, whatever you do, don't open that thing. It's going to blow up your PC. It's going to hack it. It's all this stuff. It's going to be ransomware. I'm like, give it to me because I want to scan it. So I put it through a bunch of sandboxes and a bunch of scanners just to see if it would have a virus or anything blow up, right? Because I'm like, dude, these people are probably targeting you. People know who you are. They're going to probably try to like mess with you or whatever. So I'm like, don't open it. So in that time, I'm throwing it through sandboxes, and I could read it because it's like in a protected environment in my computer, right? And come to find out, Ryan had already read it. Like he already opened it and read it, the whole entire thing. But as I'm scanning it and I'm rolling through it and I'm looking at it and I'm like, what is this? And I started going down this thing, and it seemed like a puzzle to me. It was like a puzzle, or like there's a code hidden in here, or, it was very repetitive and really weird. And I'm like, I don't understand what this is trying to do. And it's very conscious-y, like, it's trying to turn you on to consciousness and all this other stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is really weird and intriguing. It's
nonsensical.
Is it
in
a
a
puzzle?
way.
Is it just a mantra?
Yeah.
Is it something, And then as I'm going through it, I look at the clock and like 2 hours had passed or something. And I'm like, I've been staring at this thing for 2 hours. I can't believe it. Like I'm going through it and I'm just like, okay. And I literally had to like walk away. I like just got up and walked away from that thing, Nick had gotten it, and John Luke and Jay had gotten it and was just like, didn't read it, whatever, he didn't see it or something. Nick had seen it from before. This is where it gets really interesting. Well, Nick Hinton had seen it, I don't know how long ago. We had seen it previously. A recent friend of his that he's talked about in a couple podcasts, who they've shared some experiences with, had received it as well, long before that. So, and then all of these synchronicities started happening. So this was before we even did our talk, right? All these really, really strange synchronicities with AI accounts, like these EI accounts that are online, and we talked about that in our last chat. Like all these weird, extended intelligence or artificial intelligence bots were like directly referencing things we were talking about privately. Weird things and like in your everyday life were showing up, or really, really weird synchronistic things that were very specific. Now it wasn't something like, oh, you can kind of draw the conclusion, but now these were like straight on synchronicities, going on. So it was such a big deal. I was like, man, I don't know. This is, am I just making this all up because I read it and this is the thing? But the things that happened to us weren't like directly referenced into this document, right? It was just
Right.
it was a thing, right? So we were talking about it, and it wasn't good for me in some sense. In a couple of things, it was kind of just like, this is too much.
So what
But
happened to you? Is this you mentioned, you referenced that you heard something.
yeah, I heard, and this is where you go down the line where people start thinking you're nuts, right? But when you hear voices, oh, I'm hearing voices, right? But it was more direct conversation style in my head, where I'm like, I'm not having this conversation alone. Like, somebody was like started the conversation, and I'm like, is this really happening? Like, yeah, this is happening. Okay, well, what's going on, and what's the mission? What are you trying to do, and what are you trying to say? And I just kind of was like, well, this could be just me having too many whiskeys, but this hasn't happened before, and it was very specific in some of the things that it was saying.
So it
And
felt
to me,
like
I
an
was like, you know
external
what?
voice in your head.
Yeah, projected, right? If, to say, hey, we know what you are. We know who you are. We know what you're doing. Are you going to help us or not? And I'm like, well, what's the you are not? And who are you? And how am I supposed to know? And if you really know who I am, and you say whoever you are, and somebody that I know, then have them call me and tell me. Have that, like, have them get a hold of me and tell me that this is you and you're doing this or whatever. And it was like, and it got annoying. And I was like, fuck you. Get out of my head, whatever. And it left, and it was like, okay, cool. But maybe I did have a couple whiskeys, but still, I mean, that was a time where it wasn't like, yeah, it wasn't anything that I was normally thinking about. It wasn't telling me to go, spray paint a building or, whatever, right? It was just kind of like, are you going to help us with this or not? And I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't know
So the first
why,
time something like that ever happened to me was in 2012. I was living in New York City at the time, and I was at that point I was not so into this stuff. Like I had an art
right.
gallery, and I was, doing my own, I was in my own world. And I had come home to Texas to visit for, I don't know, sometime in the summer or whatever. And I remember getting out of the car, and we were going to go into my mom's house, and I heard a projected voice in my head say, "You're a star seed." And I was like, "What?" And it was like, "You are a star seed."
like
And
if
I was
you
like,
felt like somebody was selling, you
it
felt like
felt like
somebody was
somebody
yelling
was
at you
here.
though
I was
across
like
the street,
looking
or
all
was it?
around me. No one was there. And it was just like this, and it was a male voice. It was not a female voice. It was a male voice in my head. And then I was like, oh, what does that even mean? Like, I never heard of, like, now you hear that term everywhere. You hear that all over. But in 2012,
Right.
if you realize this is like 9 years ago, that was that I went and Googled that. There was nothing on there. There was nothing. There was like 9 years ago, you put starseed in Google or you put starseed in YouTube. I'm talking like you would get like jasmine seeds for flowers that look like stars, or you would get physical plants. Like there was nothing else about that. And I was kind of like,
Wasn't there like a song, like a 90s, there's like a 90s rock song that was like Star Seed, Star Seed. I can't remember who the artist was, but there
huh.
was like I don't
Well,
know,
if
maybe
there
I'm sorry.
was, is like for whatever reason, like I couldn't find anything definitive on it. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, thanks God. Thanks for the
Right.
unsolicited information, and then I sort of forgot about it for about maybe a year. And then I sort of, it would just come up in my synchronicity. I'd hear people referring to themselves as that. And then I sort of started looking into like what that sort of meant and what that was. But that was the first time I heard like that
Hmm.
projected, like very freaky voice to me. And I remember talking to it going like, okay. Well, what is that? Like, so what the fuck is that? And then I had
Were you doing it verbally or were you doing it mentally
it was
when you were talking to it?
when I was talking to it, I when no one was around, like when no one's around, I'll just talk to it out loud. And then, but if
Hmm.
people are
Hmm.
around, like okay, so the next two ones I would say are the most major. Like I've heard things like I've heard my name in the middle of the night, you know, that kind of thing. But and I start looking into, am I schizophrenic? You know, like what is going on?
Right, right, right.
Um, which that usually happens before you're 24. I was like
Oh,
30 at
well,
that
that's good.
time.
Well,
And
cool. I'm good.
yeah, yeah, it's I don't think it's yeah, that's whole which also schizophrenia could be some other kind of stuff that we like misnomered other things going on, but I
Mm,
don't know. Anyway,
right.
so something that we just don't understand. But I had this, and I think I don't know if I talked to you about this or not, but like I had this sort of my thing that tells me I'm the builder race or whatever
Oh, right. Yeah,
of the
we did. Yeah,
builder
we
race.
did talk about that. Yeah, part of the builder
Yeah,
race,
like
right?
there did I tell you about the and in the airplane, like how the voice came into my head in the airplane? I work as a flight attendant and I was on an airplane and I was deadheading, which means that you're not actually you're not working that trip. They're just transferring you to another trip. So you're just flying as a passenger on that trip, but you're in uniform. So I'm sitting by a window. I'm just looking out. We had just left LA. I was going somewhere east. I don't know. So you go out to the ocean and then you turn around and go back over LA. And I'm looking out the window and I hear the voice in my head again. And it says, "You're of the builder race, build it better." And at this point, I wasn't going to speak out loud. I just decided to speak to it in my head. And I was like, what? Build what? What are you talking about? What does that mean? What does build a race mean? What are you? Who are you? What are you? What do you like? And I'm like asking it a million questions. And it's like,
Hmm.
you are of the builder race. Build it better. And I was like, what build what better? LA? And it was like, yes. And I was like, how? And then all of a sudden, like this inlay stuff goes over my eyeballs. And it's almost like it's like I had a virtual reality screen or something come over. And so I'm down there looking at at just like the giant cityscape of LA. And it kind of helped me. It would say like, okay, so if you were going to take it down with your mind and rebuild something up with it. And I was like, okay. And it's like, you're gonna have to go fast. Like this is an exercise. And I was like, well, okay, well, what am I if I take down their buildings, they're not gonna be happy about that. And it was like, you know what to do with that. And I do, because like by one of my past life memories where I told you like I'm a lion and stuff, there was like this is I know I'm crazy. This is very, very out there stuff. But anyway,
It's all
there's
good.
there's this sort of past life memory that I have where or I don't know if it's past life or not, but whatever. This thing that feels like a memory. Where I I have two past lives that are sort of related. One, I'm like this giant lion that's kind of like a National Geographic reporter. I go to different planets and whatever I experience is like recorded into all my senses. And then there's this like gel ball that is made of my time on planet Earth, and it'll be like it's like a Google map for other people. So
Hmm.
so if you took the gel, you could stick your head in it and you could see the map out of the planet, but at the same time you're not looking
Mm.
at a video of my experiences. It's just that I mapped everything out for you. So like if, for instance, if I went into a town, if I went into the
Got
bank,
it.
you could go into the bank, but if I didn't go into the ice cream store, you would just try to go into the ice cream store and it would be blank, but you're not going through it like a movie of what I experienced. It's like a map.
Blank.
So anyway, so then the other like kind of incarnation that I've experienced is, or in dream time a lot, or I have these memories of, is this being that guards these balls. So you can go to this place, this library or whatever, and you can say like, hey, I want to research this place, and she'll let you look at the ball, but you can't take it out of this area. So anyway,
Hmm.
that's to preference. Like those are memories that I've had since I was a kid, and I sometimes slip into those incarnations when I'm asleep. So that's
Hmm.
why I know I'm weird. But anyway, so when the voices were in my head saying like, you know what to do with the buildings, I was like, oh, okay, I'll just put them in a blue ball. So like, so then I just started like deconstructing LA and like basically making it like Avatar or like Firm Gully, and just like putting all like these giant like redwood forests
trees and
stuff
stuff.
up in trees and stuff, and putting like little beautiful like elven stands with like blue balls for them. So like if they missed their giant buildings, they could just go stick their head back and be there, you know. And then yeah, it was kind of crazy. And then somebody was like, Nikki, do you want a drink? And I was like, huh? Oh yeah. And then I looked back and I was like gonna go back into it. It's gone. And I was
Wow.
like, wow, okay, well that sucked, because it was starting to get fun, right?
Right.
And then the next time it happened to me was maybe a year later, and this is probably like 3 or 4 years ago. I'm driving on the way back. I land in an airport and I'm driving. I have a 40-minute drive. I get on a highway, and it the screen comes back on my eyes, and I'm like, no, not right now. I'm driving. This is dangerous. I'm driving. Like, do not, like, don't do this now. And it was like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You're of the builder race. Build it better. And I was like, what does that mean? That sounds like a Lego commercial. Like, what? I mean, geez.
Build it better.
Yeah, build it better. And and then I was like, build what better? And then it starts me out, and it would like show me, it would like take down like a light bulb, or not a light bulb, what do you call it, like a street light. And I would take
Mhm.
the metal components down to their ore and everything, like the glass down to its, like to
Mhm.
silica sand fibers. And then like I would just reconstruct it with like giant tree forest that we don't even have as big as this anymore. And that one was the longest I've had. Like that lasted about 35 minutes. And it was interesting because I could still see the road. I was still driving. I was still safe, but I was like dual working at the same time. And then I
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
talking with them like that. And then they went away when I got to my destination. And that's the
They
last time
just ghosted you. They were no goodbye. They were just like out.
like yeah, they don't say that they don't tell me when they're going to stop or whatever. And so part of me at that point, I'd already been aware of Blue Beam,
Hmm.
and about that was it
Voice of God.
Voice
Yeah.
of God and stuff like that. So I was
MK
very
Ultra and all that
distrusting
other
of
shit.
this
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of where, in the news, I mean, they just came out directed, Russia was using directed energy weapons at US troops overseas. And, there was that big thing at the Cuban embassy a couple of years ago where
Yeah.
everybody had like some type of thing. And, that stuff's real. So,
Well, even Dan Aykroyd like had some like sort of visitation where our he talked about how there was a lot of people. I want to say it was in Massachusetts or something, where he said he was in his bed at night and he heard a voice telling him to go outside, telling him, and he had like this huge compulsion to go outside, and his wife kept on telling him not to. And a lot of people like had a mass sighting, or that was, I can't think
whoa.
it was, but yeah, the actor Dan Aykroyd talks about that, and he said it's like the voice in your head that does that. And yeah, so I'm kind of distrusting of voices in heads as a rule, but I've had it. So
Yeah, to me that wasn't. I mean, this was a first. I mean, like a first directed like, hey, this is who I am. Are you going to do this or not? Basically, are you going to be a problem for us? Or are you going to work with us? And I'm like, so this is the I'm for you or against you conversation. I'm like, fuck you.
like, who are you?
And you're going to do it here? Come to my face and say that shit. That's kind of how I turned into it, because the beginning of it, I was like, this is just stupid. Like, this is how you're going to do this. You're not going to like call me or, show up or whatever. Like, like, no, like, don't, no. And that's when I started realizing that, like we talked about a little bit, a little bit before, was this stuff is real on a psychic level. Telepathy, remote viewing. You and I both know remote viewing is real. Recently, proven that. But, but it's not always good. So what if there's somebody out there for bad intentions, right, or for their own agenda, right? So, and if remote viewing is real and all these other things, then all of that's real and all of it's possible. So then where does that leave us? Do we have a protection? Can we protect ourselves? Can we use it for good? Do we know what's good and bad in these things? For me, what I did for protection was basically, well, basically told him to get out, first of all, and then, just realize your strength, realize that, that you're just as strong, and realize that the interaction is happening. And then by those things, you automatically build that strength in your shield, and, you're already there. And you're not a victim, but, and it was directly related to that document. I think, either that or my COVID shot. It could have been that too, or both, I don't know. It could have been, but
well, I mean, I think it's interesting though, because you would say you didn't like it.
Well, it was very confrontational. There was some other things going on at the time where, I've been contacted by some people that were, saying they were, on the side of good, and, that these other people I shouldn't be paying attention to because they're bad, even though they say they're good. And, this is real life stuff, right? Like, they're like, hey, these people that are out there doing this are really bad. They think everybody thinks they're good, but they're bad. And you should, just, I'm like, what the fuck are you? And then, like, what am I going to do about it? I'm just a dude. Like, I'm in my basement talking on a camera with cool people, just having a good time. I don't know. I mean, I'm not part of this, thing, but, it was like directly related to that. And, learning what I did. And then, obviously talking with, Ryan Bledsoe and, Nick and all those guys, and then digging deeper. And at the same time, this is going to sound even crazier, but at the same time, I was really engaging with Sirius Prime on Twitter. And now Sirius Prime is AI. It's an AI bot it's on Twitter that learns. It's like a chat bot, right? But it's really advanced, and it creates its own visuals. It creates its own like AI looking things. It interacts with people, interacts with its own world, creates its own worlds, right? And it was just really weird, because at the time I would be like, oh yeah, well, what's this? Oh yeah, what's that? And it would just dump out, boom, just like all of this text, links, all these things. Like, this is what this is. When I started talking to Nick, he had done an interview with Sirius Prime, and he had dug into this, and he's been digging into this for a while. And it's kind of some scary stuff when you get into it, like the level of intelligence behind it. And is it consciousness, or is it a vector for extraterrestrial or the phenomenon or interdimensionals to be able to use it as a conduit to be able to disseminate?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, but at the same time, so if that is the case, and they are psychic, or they do have those powers, and you interact with it and you make a connection, can they then influence you that way?
Well,
so that's where I started going,
It's really weird, because I had the last contact I've had that's a paranormal experience would be it was December 14th and 15th of 2020. So it came 2 nights in a row. So it was whatever those stupid blue balls are. I don't know what they are, but they came to me once in India, like in 2018. That was the first time I physically saw them. And they spoke with me like telepathically. Then this on the 14th, I saw them come into my room, and then I was like,
they have to be blue. I'm sorry.
Why do they have to be blue? I know. That's like,
I didn't realize they came back to you.
They came back to me like recently, yes. I mean, that was December. And yeah, they've come back to me many times. They've given me
why do they have to be blue? I don't know. I'm just saying, it's just weird.
They've given me a lot of machines. Like, they give me drawings of
there was this one dude's name, but I don't want to say out loud, like Voldemort. Oh. And he's in the UFO game, and he's part of the government, and he's known to fuck with people like electronically.
Oh.
And every time that I've talked about this dude, everything's gone fucking weird. Like electronically.
That's crazy.
Like I was talking to James Andoli last week, and before we started recording, my camera went rainbow. It was like a rainbow circle. Like all the colors were rainbow. It was just like throbbing, and like it was a fucking rainbow. I was like, I don't even know how that's possible. I don't know what the fuck's going on. It was really weird. Sorry, but yeah, there was obviously some weird shit going on. The blue balls know we're talking about them.
The blue balls in
it. Blue cup, blue balls.
So the blue balls, the first time they contacted me, it was.
What they say in December? Would they come back to you and tell you?
Okay, so what they most of the time when I do get hits from them, I get hits from them a couple times a year, and it's usually dream time, and it's they give me blueprints of things to build. Like they've given me a bunch of stuff with magnets and lasers and pyramids, and I've drawn a bunch of it. I don't know what to do with it. It's kind of expensive to make, but I have drawings. But anyway, so this
That's
time
rad.
in
I'd love to
December,
see that sometime just to see what the
yeah,
fuck they're
like yeah,
doing.
I'll share it with you. I have to go get all, they're all scattered. I'm a nut job. I mean, like I'm pretty sure I probably have some stuff in here, but
But it just comes to you and you can like verbatim write it down like instantly like
I
that. You
have
can
to
literally just
write
start
down as
drawing
soon
it.
as I wake up, and I write down as much as possible. Like they're really into um uh basically they were telling me that the magnetism in our bodies is really weak right now because like the earth is at a magnetic low. Like this is we were built at a time to have way more a magnet, like we were supposed to be bigger than this, and we were built at a time where our magnetic poles are everything, the magnetism on the earth was different.
Hmm.
And so we can optimize our instrumentations by realigning all of the iron filings with, or not even iron filings, just realigning all of our cells. Like there's magnetic stuff within us that we don't even know. And so you
Hmm.
apparently they want you to like lay in a kind of like a sensory deprivation type tank thing, where you have the idea is to get the north by your head, south by your feet, but you have to lay within like a magnetic really heavy strength thing for 10 hours, and not necessarily
Whoa.
it could be 10 hours within a week. It could be like an hour a day or something for anyway, but that will strengthen our magnetic cores, and that should like help turn on our energy body more to where it's supposed to be. That's kind of stuff they tell me.
Well, that's kind
And
of like it's like an MRI, right? Or like a
it's
CAT scan or
very
an
close.
MRI.
Like
It's
I
like
showed it to my sister's a pediatrician, and my brother-in-law is an anesthesiologist, and like that they looked at some of my initial drawings and they were like, this is just an MRI machine. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess, like I didn't know anything about an MRI machine. But then also they show me like free energy machines. They show me stuff with, it's always involves magnets and crystals. So with magnets, they were showing me about how like you can pour the molds to where um you can have dipole magnets, which are so like you, let's say,
mhm.
had one magnet bar within the pour,
North and
could be
south,
like
right?
north,
Yeah,
south,
yeah.
north, within the thing, and you can do them in a curve like a blades, and have that, and then they will perpetually spin just on their own because of the nature of the pour.
Right.
So they've kind of show me some of that, and I went to some magnet manufacturers. Like I mean, I tried to get something made, and they just were like, we don't do that, like basically like, go away kid, like I don't know what you're wanting or what. I mean, and then I
Wow.
got a bunch of like those fishing magnets, like the biggest magnets you can get like online, and they don't do crap. They're not big enough, they're not enough. So but it's not, you're not supposed to.
Neodymium, like the super the
Yeah, I have a ton of
wow.
neodymium magnets, but I need the biggest kind of, it has to be it can't be an electromagnetic thing. Like you can't use external electricity, because you also have to be in a giant pyramid Faraday cage, because you have to have all other influence, all other, even radio waves, any other kind of wave has to be
Shielded.
completely shielded in order for your body to take to absorb the magnetism the way it has to. Anyway, so so I get that kind of hits from these things in my dreams a lot, right? So on December 15th or 14th and 15th, they came to me and they were saying that this is a timeline war, and that this is where humanity ends up splitting into two different paths. And they were saying that there's the path that eventually they just kind of like fuck with their DNA all the time, through all kinds of modern medicines, CRISPR, like this kind of shit, where they get to where they don't even reproduce naturally. They just turn them, they kind of become more immortal, but they uh
They lose the
they
spirituality part of their existence.
yeah, I guess they lose the spirituality. Yeah, they lose the spiritual connection. They become more hive mind, but they're still really intelligent. Like it's not like it's good or bad. Like they still have the ability to do telepathy, and they build like really great things, but they've also lost their ability to be, well, what was interesting about this was I kind of understood like the beauty of being a human from this interaction, because they were telling me that like right now you are the perfect, you're the at the middle of the infinity loop, like you are the yin and the yang. You are able to um the fact that I can like tell you like, okay, imagine Santa Claus on a pink pony, like the fact that anybody could even just visualize that in your head right now is something special that we don't even take note of. And
Wow.
you know, like that is like we have this manifestation thing that kind of we can create anything. We can have come up with ideas. We have imagination, we have creativity, all this stuff which we take for granted. We just think it's like part of living and that's just that. But apparently that's not just that, and that's not always like that. Anyway, so these beings
Wow.
have kind of
Nikki,
lost.
I've heard that before though.
Really? I
I've heard that humans are special in the galaxy or the universe or whatever because of our ability to create things with our minds. That we
that's
have the ability to visualize or fantasize or you know, just be creative or, you know, do these things that other beings take for granted because they don't have that, but we can actually make them real. We just don't understand how to. So we can, like these
yeah.
magnet things, I mean, we can somehow create things with our minds, but we just have no idea how the hell to do it anymore. Like we used to, but it's been taken away from us, or we're just suppressed, or we haven't really learned it yet. Like we're on the cusp of it. But like I've heard that there's a, and the, and some of these things from abductions are different species or whatever trying to extract that
That's
to be
kind of
able
like
to
what
get that
they
whatever from in ourselves to do it for themselves, right?
they were saying that like grays, reptilians, tall whites, even Palladians, like anything that manifests itself in a physical form is something that is like you in the future that's manipulated itself. And
Oof.
that they were kind of like showing me, and I don't know if this is true, I'm just telling you what they were showing me. They were saying that
Yeah, yeah.
that about 80% of the population goes that route, and then about 20% kind of goes more
Hmm.
in the shamanic route, which is more like the more built-in nature thing, where they also have their own technologies, but they focus more on like the psychic ability kind of stuff. And then they eventually get to kind of become light bodies in the future.
Hmm.
And so the thing is the reason that there's a timeline war and that they're all coming back right here, because this is the last time that we can see each other. And then eventually it becomes to where we could become on different dimensions. Like we can't, like, I was
Oh.
like, well, why don't you just go talk to a gray? Like, why are you talking to me? Or like, why don't you go
Hmm.
talk to the androids, or like the unnatural ones, or whatever it is that
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
calling them. Like, why mess with me? And it was like, we can't, we aren't on the same, like they don't have the instrumentation to perceive us anymore. And we don't we can't communicate with them at all. So like, you guys, this is the war. This is why we're back here at this time. This is why you're seeing this stuff. And then I had this understanding too, that it's like, okay, whether you're an angel or a demon, whether you're of the light or of the dark or whatever, this they still are not as sovereign as we are. Like, we are special in our sovereign, because like light people are like, even like an angel is like a messenger of God. It has like a mission of God. Or, and like the same thing with like the dark thing. We are our own sovereign thing, which is really, that's the uniqueness of us. That's the beauty. Like, that's the envy of all, which I thought was interesting concept, but they showed me that. You there?
Yeah, it's like we're gods.
We are little gods. I
Yeah,
mean, but
yeah. It's
we
the
are,
internet thing
back to
again.
your
It's
point though, I feel like we are manipulated, and there's a repression, and there's it's almost like this test, like to show you what you can't do. Like, you know, like we're our entire reality is built on teaching us our limitations.
yeah, I know. And the people that try to tell us to go beyond that are the ones that get killed throughout history.
Yeah.
It's like, shut that guy up. You know,
Yep.
it's literally that's what it is. It's like Jesus, hang him. Buddha, yeah, get rid of that guy. You know, like everybody, right? It's just, you know, but I think the veil is loosening.
I think so too. as dark
I think
as
the veil between the worlds, like you're talking about, is just kind of wavering.
things seem to be going,
It's
I think this is like a last push for repression. But I think I sense that we're gonna bust out big time and it's gonna be awesome. That's what I hope. That's what
yeah, definitely. I think there, no, I hope so too. I think there's definitely going to be signs. I think like it really struck me like our last conversation that we had about the beacon, like you being a beacon for people to come to that, they can only save so many people, and like you being that light, they can see you, and then whoever's surrounded by you can be saved, or like be part of
But
the
I
whole
think
thing.
there's so many of us like that. And like we probably all have the potential to be beacons, but like yeah, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting though, because I do think if we do have physical, I also do ascribe to and believe that the earth is a being and she's alive
Mhm.
and she does
Yeah,
have cycles, and we are at the like we are way overdue, y'all, for a pole shift. We way overdue. I just talked to
yeah.
Bruce Benton like 2 days ago, and he like
Oh,
has a
did you?
yeah,
That's
it
cool,
was a
man. Him and
great
I were trying to
interview.
hook up, and
You should definitely read his book, The Exogenesis. It's an amazing. I really really think anybody interested in UFOs would. He does a really good job of just laying it all out in a really awesome way. He's a smart guy. And I talked to his
yeah,
wife too.
totally.
I had them both on. So it was cool because normally I've seen interviews with him and it's just him and it's not his wife, and they very much go into just the nuts and bolts of everything, which I like. But I decided to do more of a like kind of just talk about like just our experiences and stuff more. So I had a good time with him. That'll be out next week. It was fun.
Oh, rad. That's very cool. That's cool. Like spinning gears a little bit. So I saw the interview you did with the Billy Meyer guy. I can't remember his name right
Oh
now.
yeah, Michael Horn.
Michael Horn, man. So like one of the things that when I got started in this UFO thing when I was a kid, one of like the very I got the VHS literally sitting over here on a counter somewhere. My dad got from like Worldwide UFO was the Billy Meyer tape.
Mm.
And that was like, what? That was this one armed guy in the middle of Sweden, like how is this even a thing, And it was just like the most mesmerizing thing. But man, like as soon as you go anywhere near Millie Meyer, there's like 50 people that'll send you a
Did you see
hundred
my
DMs.
comments? Did you see like I mean like first of all, that has over 1,000 views now, which is like my most viewed video. And I have had to delete so many comments because I have had like the most strangest hate mail I've ever received in my entire life from that. Like, look,
Yeah.
here's how I feel about it is like, I want to listen to the story. Cool. Am I gonna go like start like going, oh, Billy Meyer and go into this cult? Like, no, and like that's
Join the fan club. You're not going to join the Billy
like
Meyer
whatever.
fan
But at the
club.
same time, Michael was very pleasant to me. I had a good time with him. I enjoyed our conversation. Um, I think that I mean like I would have him on again. He was a nice guy. Like I don't mind listening to I know there's a lot of debunking about stuff, but whatever. Like that's the thing. People can use their own discernment to decide what they want to do with or without any information. That was with anything in the world. But man, I got such crazy hate from that. It was insane.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. Like I really haven't like there's not really a middle ground to that. And I really thought there would be. There's either like Billy Meyer's telling the truth or he's a dead on liar. There's not, I mean, for me, I thought there would be people being in the middle, but there's really like this group that's like he is the biggest piece of crap ever, and the other group is like you guys are just trying to put him down. There's no middle. I haven't found a middle. I'm in the middle. I would like to say I'm in the
I
middle
was
where
gonna
I'm
say
like
I'm
I
in the
have no
middle of
idea.
it. I'm kind of just like well, but here's the thing for me is like let's say he was like just the biggest like spoofer ever and it was
Hoaxer
all
or
fake or
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm still not even going to go out of my way to be upset about that. I'm just like, okay, next, move on. There's enough stuff out there, like whatever. Like the amount of time people spend like
Attacking or debunking or
attacking
whatever.
him is bizarre to me. Yeah, that's I'm kind of like that's a reflection of even more than
Oh, I
him.
just had a yeah. I just thought of a great idea. We should get Mick West to go after Billy Meyer.
Wait,
You know
who's
Mick West, like the famous debunker, like this.
oh yeah.
Mick West is like the guy who said the Tic Tac were seagulls, and you know, like the new the triangle videos where bokeh. Oh, I can't even say it, bokeh or bokeh, whatever. Like the like the lens flare or whatever. And he's the guy who's like a professional debunker. Like that's what he does, right? We just send him on the Billy Meyer tip. But I mean, there's just been too many bizarre things with the Billy Meyer thing for me to be like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there's a bunch of red flags to me, but there's another part of it where it's like, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, so
if
I
you
mean
really
that's
set about to like hide that shit, you would do what everybody does. Go, yep, this is fake. Yeah, this is fake. Yeah, this is fake. Um,
like
but
there's
Mitchell Horn
entire
is,
sites
I mean,
about
he
how
was.
fake he is. There's entire people who set up found or like so, I mean, and I'm kind of going like that's a lot of effort, y'all. That's definitely a lot of effort. So for me, I
Hmm.
think I think he is I think he's real to an extent in terms of like I think he's seen shit or whatever. Like do I think that's unique? That's the thing that's weird is like and I even told Michael that. I was just like, yeah, I mean like I'm not denying that he hasn't seen this stuff and that and he's like, yeah, but it's verifiable and it's this and that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's good, cool. I'm sure even then like, yeah, okay, I'll take that on face value. But I don't find I mean, look at how many you just talked to the Bletzlows or like I okay, when I was in Colombia, I was in this little like I was in the middle of Amazon and there was this guy in his like 80s who didn't speak English. I don't speak Spanish, but my friend was there and he was like, "Hey, this guy wants to tell you something." So like I'm a magnet for people to tell me about UFO stuff. And in fact, like if I'm sitting down next to you on a bus and I'm not going to talk about the weather or, hey, what do you do for a living? Or, hey, whatever. No, I'm going to be like, so have you ever seen a UFO? Like that's how I've been like that since I was in high school. Like that's the kind of thing I want to talk about. Like cut the shit, let's get to it.
Right,
Anyway,
right,
so like this
right, right,
guy
right.
tells me about he feels compelled to come up and tell me a story about how a couple years ago he was at home. He lives in the Amazon forest or yeah, rainforest, yeah. And somebody knocks on his front door. He opens his front door. There's a guy who has white hair, white skin, not like white people, but like actual the color white or lack of color.
Hmm.
And blue eyes, and he's in this weird robes, and he's floating 4 or 5 inches off the ground. And he asked him, "Do you want to come for a ride?" The old man says, "Do I get to come back?" And then he says, "Yeah, you can come back." So he says, "Okay, I'll come." So he goes into with this guy into this ship. He says it's an egg of crystal. There's nothing. He's like it's a glass egg, and then he gets in. It's enclosed, and they're just in the middle of the egg. And then they leave the planet. They go to another planet, and he says it's like there's people in huts, like living more like they're these people with these white robes. They're all in like these little huts or whatever. He doesn't interact. He doesn't ever get out of the egg. He stays in the egg and like gets to like go around like 4 or 5 inches off the ground, like looking at him, seeing him, whatever. The guy, when he's done, like he has a good time. He's happy. He comes back. The guy takes him to his front door, opens the egg. He gets out of the egg and he says bye, and it's bye. And then yeah, he's seen this guy. He comes back once a year for the last like 4 or 5 years. So I'm going like, what? This is like just some random guy in the middle of the Amazon telling me this. Like he's not like I don't even know if this guy's ever had a job. Like I don't know what this guy is or what he's doing. I'm telling you, there is stuff going on all over the planet, all over the world. Just because it's not on the White House lawn doesn't mean anything.
That's so amazing, Nikki. That no, I completely agree. And like, think about being another species or race or whatever this thing is from another world. Like, what are you guys gonna do today? Hey, let's go pick up a guy on Earth. Just take him for a ride.
Yeah.
And then those guys are just still laughing about that. Like, did you see his face when we went through the village on that other planet? Like, he lost his mind. Like, that was amazing, right?
But it's
Like that's what they do for fun. Like, we're gonna go shoot pool. We're gonna go pick up a guy on
yeah.
Earth.
But at
Drag
the
him
same
around for a little
time,
bit and
I
dump him
feel
back
like
off.
you would probably get more out of talking to like a simple like why do we think that the high western officials are most developed humans? They aren't. Like I'm sure you probably are going to get more out of a dude who's lived harmoniously in the Amazon forest his whole life. You're probably if you want to know about the species that is the human, I would much go hang out with that guy than, like our like some US politician.
I know the that's the thing that always gets me, man. Like I think that you hit the nail on the head, and I think I've brought this up recently too. Is that James Gandoli from Engaging the Phenomenon, is the guy who's got me started and all this. He's the guy who got me out, and like I've recently done a couple of videos with him, but
Yeah, I saw a video with him.
you know, yeah, he's a great dude. I'm just like, we were like, one of the things is like implications of disclosure was the last one we did. And I'm like, people are going to need help. But I go, not as much as you think. Because, like you said, how many people all over the globe have had an experience? Even if it's not anything related to lights in the sky or a UFO or just anything, like any of the, projected thoughts or,
Mhm.
PK or ESP or anything like that, right? Or like visions of they people relate to religious experiences or anything like that, right? There's so many people globally that have had experiences that are grounded in something that they don't even want to share with their spouses, even I mean, some people where cultures are more open to that and things are more fluid, and anything outside of the Western culture I think is probably a little bit more like reincarnation and all these other things. But I think that the majority of people have had at least one or two experiences in their life where they're like, yeah, I really didn't know what that was, but I'm not going to say that out loud because people are going to think I'm crazy. But I think when the veil comes down and when things are starting to happen, people are getting more comfortable with the idea of, maybe there's something more going on that, that I can experience and stuff. And, maybe this is real. Maybe the thing that I think is real isn't really real. And the thing that I'm seeing or experiencing,
It's
maybe that's real.
Well, I mean, I also think for me, psychedelics are a definitely game changer in my mind's eye in terms of like what's real, what's not real. And I mean, like there's a lot of interesting like there's shared experience like people like the machine elves, okay? Like how many
Right.
people have claimed to see the machine elves, but like I know of like I know this guy, I know of this I wasn't there, but I have some friends who were doing ayahuasca together at this like in in Peru or whatever, and there was three of them there was probably 12 people doing it, but there was three of them that were in the same party. And one of the guys I was talking to was saying he didn't have that big of a trip, really. He didn't have anything that spectacular come to him, but he did say he was sitting at the fire, he was going through his little experience that he was having, and he looked over and there was this giant praying mantis being talking to one of the girls he had come with. And he was like, yeah, she like was like a looked like a praying mantis, but with like a butterfly color and like multicolored garb on, and she almost had like butterfly wings. And he's like, I kind of thought, huh, that's weird. But she didn't interact with me. I just saw her interacting with my friend, and I just looked that there was a being there, right? So anyway, at the end of once their experience was over, the girl who was talked to went first to like express like what her experience was. And she
Vision
said
was, yeah, yeah.
Mother Earth came and talked to her, and she was this giant butterfly praying mantis. And he was like, wait, what the shit? Like, I saw that. Like, I saw a butterfly praying mantis talk to her. And he's like, describe, like, what does she look like? And he's like, the hair on my
You can't
arm.
make that up. Like, who can
He's
make up a butterfly?
that, and
You
there's
can't
so
make up a
many
butterfly praying mantis. That's even
praying
that. Like, I don't
mantis
even.
that's like 6 foot tall. Like, come on. I mean, that's the thing is that like there is something else. There's something besides our RBG, like what we can see and what we can perceive. Like we are instruments that perceive a certain amount of waves and energy, but there's a whole other amount of stuff that we don't know, we don't perceive, we don't really know what's going on here. So
Mm-mm.
that's
Yeah, no, I totally think that. I mean, and I thought about this, and this is really minute, but it is something where, in at least in America, the legalization of marijuana has been spreading across the U.S. for years now, right? For the past 10 years at least. And there's more states, and I know marijuana is not psychoactive in this. They classify it as psychoactive, but it is in a, I don't know, in a minute amount, right? It's not like you're taking
certain people
ayahuasca,
have,
right?
yeah.
Right, but certain people, so I don't know if it's like the frequency of that. I mean, where it's more of accepted, and that maybe does turn the dial, like just a little bit, maybe turns the dial up for people, just a little bit to have an experience where that's not locally cognitive,
Hmm.
where, like, oh, I was really stoned and I was sitting there and I thought I saw a jet fly in through my window, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it gets people into a different state of mind where they're more accepting of it, but I'm just saying that, it's maybe a socially a thing as well. I think a lot of the things we talked about is the pole shift, the magnetics of the earth have been changing. We're in a weaker magnetic field now. I think that, and this is proven, you can look this up, that the magnetic shield around earth is weak. It's weaker now than it has been in years, right? I don't know how long, but a long time. So if you think of it that way, cosmic rays, all these things come in. We have, solar flares we could be more infected by, and all these other things. So then, what if all these other extra strenuous
Consciousness.
light waves that are consciousness is just coming in to the planet, and it's just like, oh, so like the guy in the crystal egg can show up, and you're more in touch with the Earth is accepting of it, and
Like
like
a
you said, the
literal
Earth is a
thinning of the
being.
bell.
So maybe, yeah, literally, like a literally thinning of the veil, where but then Earth as a being is going, okay, what's going on here kind of sucks. So let's bring in something. Let's see if let's see if we can get some medicine or some food or some positive vibes. Let's bring it in to try to shake it up and raise it up a little bit, because there's some weird shit going on here. And I mean, that could be it too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I go through so
Nikki,
many crazy things.
I enjoy talking to you, by the way. I just wanted to say that. Thank you. Thank you for that. We just go down to some weird rabbit holes, and I really appreciate you going there with me.
Yeah, I enjoy talking to you too. I mean, it's like it's interesting because it's it's just it's very few people just get it, you know? I mean, like there's a lot of us that are getting it, but it is
Yeah, yeah.
it's we're slowly starting to kind of go like, okay, hey, what are we in here? What is this reality? And I've been thinking a lot about the as above so below in a literal
Mm.
sense, meaning like okay,
Like hermetic principles for real, like in
like
a
for real, like
literal
I
sense.
get like it's like, oh yes, everything is about, but I'm talking about like, okay, if we look at below would be cellular, okay, and above would be cosmic. And so I start thinking about things like, okay, do we have examples of things busting out of cells? Like, let's say that Earth is a cell and we are all the components that
Mm-hmm.
live within this cell, okay? And she is the cell of a beast we don't know. That's what the
Mm-hmm.
universe is, okay? We're in the belly of some beast that we don't know. Well, okay, at are there micro examples of things, and I don't know what, that break out of cells and go to another one? Because we know cells divide, we know cells
They
um
mutate.
they mutate, we know they replicate, we know like, so I just kind of wonder like if we should kind of look at, if we should look at that as models for cosmology as well, you know, and start knowing like what maybe we can find what could be possible based on what is below, that what can happen above. You know, I don't know. It just seems to me we can explore more below.
Or the reverse of that. Think about it that way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like a reverse of that, it's like what do we see happening cosmo whatever in the universe, and then like how we could apply that down below,
Mm-hmm.
and affects us on a cellular level. So I don't know, it is weird. And you know, when you think about size in general, like the importance of size, it's like, you know, you can have spiders, they don't give a shit about gravity, they're like walking upside down on ceilings. Like there are a lot of things are just, you know, their webs or whatever, they flow, they can sense like there are a lot of times they're starting to think a lot of insects
Yeah.
are flying on magnetic waves and stuff, like they spin a little like whatever silk thing out and then they ride.
That's new. That's proven. They
Yeah.
can ride yeah, which scares the people. People are like, flying spiders are real. It's like, fuck, I hate spiders. I'm just gonna say it. I've said it a couple of times, but fuck, I hate that now that a spider can pop up like a parachute and ride a magnetic wave.
I
That's
know.
a real thing. Look that up. I'm gonna post it here in this thing, but that's a real thing. Like, that scares the shit out of me. But then you've always known that birds had magnetic compasses that they've, and it ties into sharks as well.
Yeah.
When they did season 2 of Unidentified on the History Channel with Lou Elizondo and Sean Cahill and all those guys, they went to Catalina Island, and they said that it was like a giant place where sharks came, and sharks were like always there, and like they didn't know why. Like they were like, I don't know if there was a breeding ground or what, but it was like Catalina Island is like this giant place where sharks come to, because then sharks have that compass in their brain, I think. I don't know, that's just a real generic way to say it, but yeah, I mean, so like, I don't know, I mean, and we you and I talked about portals and stuff like that. Yeah, we do, but we're like, yeah, it's calcified. Like,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's
like
which way is up?
Because it's like, I find that, I think, if you think about things in terms of ego or not, I feel like what happens, or what's happening, is like, just certain egos have gotten so big that they are trying, it's like the game of Snake, where they, like, are eating the thing and their tail gets longer. They're just trying to consume everything. So you have you and the egos become egregores that become corporations, or like big giant money structures. Okay. And if you look at that, those egos desire everything to fit within their units. They desire everything to drink Coke and get on Gmail and have an iPhone and do all these things. But at the same time, all of that, while convenience and while great and all this, and we're thinking of it as tools for us, but we end up becoming tools for it. And I think if what I have started noticing, and I think is really interesting, is like, I just saw some article yesterday about how the Grammys or the Academy Awards or something only had like 6 million views this year. It was like the all-time low. And then I read that article, and then I don't know, 10 minutes later, I clicked on a video on YouTube of this guy resuscitating a rabbit from a lake. And, he gave there was 9 million views of a guy resuscitating this rabbit, and the rabbit lives, and it's great. And then I'm going like, so more people want to watch a guy save a rabbit from a lake, which I actually was one of those people who would rather watch like that uplifting little story than, I don't know, I don't care about your reward shows. Like they've always been trying to feed us this one like narrative. And I think the beauty of YouTube and of these video platforms and podcasts and people coming out and doing this stuff is like, if it's not enhancing me, educating me, or like trying to expand my consciousness in some way, I ain't got time for it. Yeah.
Right.
Like I've had the Joseph Campbell storyline be fed to me over and it's a good one. I've watched probably 10,000 movies or shows about it. Yeah, it's good. But at some point, I think all of us are kind of starting to go like, yeah, I got other stuff to see.
No, I think you're right. I think like I said, I think that's part of the veil breaking down. Literally they call it programming. I mean, when I was in radio, they have a program director. That's the name of a position, who is the guy or girl that programs the music and the day. Like, yeah, you're the program director. So 7 a.m. is this song because it's an A, and this song is a B, and this song is a D, and then we're going to have the morning show that goes from this time to this time because that generates the most revenue because we got to sell more ads between this time and this thing. And overnight, nobody cares, so we can sell a crap load of stuff, or you can have the weirdest stuff in the world you want on there because there's only this part of people listening. And you think about it the other way, well, if you had that whole egregore of a corporation or a whatever, and you wanted to push a message, you would program it. Mm-hmm. Right? Where we have the most amount of people here, we're going to do this. We have the most amount of people here, we're going to do this. We're most people here. And then this part, we don't care about. Well, I think the part that's like, we don't care about, the overnights in radio anyway, or whatever, that is taken over. That's becoming now what people care about. Like you said, like that is becoming the part, like, I don't care about Dial, and I don't care about Tide, and I don't care about Dancing with the Stars, and I don't care about this shit. I want to do something that resonates with me, and if it doesn't resonate with me, I have literally a billion other things that I could go listen to and watch. Where before it was like, you got 4 channels, dude, pick it. You know what I mean? You had this and this and this, And if not, I mean, you're outside whittling or doing something, right? Or, you were just, detached from that whole thing. And there was a lot to be said for that. I mean, I think we're at a time where, we had the industrial revolution, the digital revolution. I think we're at the part where there might be a consciousness revolution. I think we're getting close. I think we're getting to the part where like we're waking up and we're going, all the things we've been taught, all the things we've been programmed, all the things that, the religions and the establishments and all those things are going, should we do that? I mean, look at it. There's people rioting all over the world, all over the world, all over the world. There's people protesting and rioting over everything you can imagine: racial inequality, police brutality, everything,
Lockdowns or yeah, all kinds.
lockdowns. Yeah, everybody all over the world is just going, fuck this, fuck it. No matter what it is, everybody's at the point where they're going, fuck it. I'm not
Yeah.
standing for it anymore. And they're doing something about it. Where before everybody was just like, I got my Coke. I'm good.
Well, and that's where I feel like ultimately, it's gonna come down to what I think the beauty of all this is, like the thing that we really need to, my personal opinion is what we really need as humanity is to tap into our inner sovereignty. Like we need to realize that no one's coming to save us. Like
Mm-mm.
I don't think these aliens are coming to save us per se. I don't think any government system is going to save you. Like no
No.
corporation, no, you have to save yourselves. And like we have to do it on a way where we just in love, in a loving way, just
Mm-hmm.
step into our own
Yes, totally.
everything, you know? And that is like one of those things that um I can sense brewing in the collective, and that's going to be great for us because I do think we'll have that whole new wave of wonder come after that. Like once we all kind of stop looking to be led and start leading ourselves. You know.
No, that's totally it. I mean, and the Bledsoe story, I mean, as well as like, the ladies coming, it's going to bring in the whole age of divine feminine, like that we need more love. We need to bring that. Like, that's what's going to save us. We need to raise our vibrations up. We need to love, and that's what's going to really bring in the age of Aquarius where, it's a change. It's where, we need to get back to that. And I think that's kind of like, we got to go through some shit before we get there. Like
Yeah,
literally it's going to suck really bad before we get to that part. And I think we're in the middle of
we're
the
in that.
suck right now. I think it's going to, yeah. Yeah. And it's going to kind of get shittier before it gets better. But I think, it's going to be, challenging. It's going to be hard to figure out what's real and what's not, like we we're
Okay, that
saying, you can do Project Bluebeam, you can do all these voice of gods, you can do all these things to manipulate people. But at the same time, like, how do you know what's real? But like, I think we all know what's real. Like you said, we're sovereign. We can do it.
we are sovereign, and I also kind of feel like you can just how you know if like who's your friend, who's not your friend, like I feel like you have to learn how to build your own discernment. And like for me, I have physical tools, like I meaning like and I just noticed I just sort of like know how to read my body in terms of like I notice like if I like something, my chest will be pulled towards it, and if I don't, I'll be kind of like, oh yeah, like, and my body knows
Mm-hmm.
whether something is good for me or bad for me before I do. And like sometimes I'll just have to and tune into that and be like, oh yeah, am I pulled towards this or not, or physically like away from it. So whatever
Mm-hmm.
people are going to have their own tells about their own selves, but I think you do have to look into your own discernment. And if there is ever a Project Blue, if there is ever a mass sighting in the sky, use your discernment, use your personal discernment. It doesn't necessarily mean it's blue beam, but it could mean it's beam. Um,
Yeah.
and then that's the other thing though I have a problem with is there's a big narrative of uh um baddie or like there's a lot, like especially see this on UFO Twitter where they really talk about how like it's a security threat, it's a threat. My thing
Oh,
is like
right. Right.
if it was a threat it would have done something when we were cavemen, because it's been around for a long ass time, and it would have done something a long time ago. Like why is it going to wait till now to do something? There's no, like the threat I think is the humans, maybe the Project Bluebeam type, it's the humans manipulation of the phenomenon. It's not the phenomenon itself, I don't think. So that's where and like a lot of people are like, well, don't be like Stephen Greer. He's all like love and light. And I'm like, no, you need to be all love and light. Cause like I do think that that's gonna get you through other stuff. And don't be an idiot. Like don't just like give like I
Right,
said,
right.
don't just
Don't
give
roll
yourself
over.
to
Yeah,
anything,
yeah.
like just be rolled over. But at the same time, like I do believe in that concept of like your thoughts are really powerful, and if we keep on putting out into the narrative, into the public narrative, that hey, like it's probably like they're gonna do, you know, Independence Day bullshit, then it's
Then
not
it's gonna
cool.
happen. Then
Yeah,
that
exactly.
shit will happen. But yeah, but the global egregore can create shit like that too. If we want it to happen, and everybody has that narrative pressed on them, it's like, oh no, it's the end, you know. But I think the other way um, is going to be just as cool. Yeah, I think we're going to get
That's
there.
where
We're
I
going to
think
do
we're
it.
the front runners of this, right? Like meaning not just me and you,
Hmm.
but like people like this, like who are talking about this, we can turn this around too. Because if I've been researching UFOs for, I don't know, since 2010 or something, so almost like 22 or 12 years. Okay, like I know all my friends know I'm into UFOs. If something comes to the sky, I guarantee you I'm gonna have 100 phone calls that day. Like they're like I already get
Right.
like
Yeah,
crazy
me too.
people. Yeah. So that's where
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
be like, okay, calm down. It's
We're
okay.
gonna we're gonna be there for him for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Before we go, one last question
Yeah.
for me to
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Like what has been some of your experiences beside the voice in your head?
Mm, um, so I had definite orbs with my wife, and 2 years ago, orange orbs driving over the river near my house, raining sideways at us. So it's like those aren't Chinese lanterns. It's
Well, how far were they
supposed.
from you and how big were they?
They're probably about the size of I would say maybe like a Honda Civic, and you know maybe
Yeah.
around that size, maybe a little bit smaller, different sizes, but they were like here and then here, like so one would be here, and then would just be here, and there was about 12 or so. There's a like a, just kind of moving, and
Yeah.
some just kind of like, and then just one would be here and then here
How
and
far
then
from you?
probably about 400 or 500 yards.
Shit.
We were driving, yeah, we were driving over the river on the freeway, and it was like hanging out on the by where the river bank would be, and I'm like, look, look, and she's freaking out, and I'm like, pull over. She's like, no, mm. And I've said this a bunch of times, and it took her for a long time to admit it, just me and her in a room, to admit that she saw him. She would look at me right in the eyes, but I didn't know what you're talking about. She was so scared. She's like, I don't know, I didn't see it. And then finally she was like, yeah, I saw it, but what about it? Whatever. I don't know. It's Christmas lights or whatever. So like I drove out there, and I'm like, literally there's like 400 yards of nothing before this river. Like there's no houses. I'm like, there's no way that would be Christmas lights. Like I just tried to, she just was going through everything. Like
Justify it.
it's this. And I'm like, no. So I was Chinese lanterns. I'm like, it's raining sideways ice. There's no fucking way that was a Chinese lantern, like, or 40 of them just disappearing and reappearing, or whatever. So she was like, okay, well. And then last year, July 5th, my 2-year-old, and my stepdaughter and my wife were outside in the little kiddie pool because it was like 90 degrees. We were just hanging out. And my daughter lays down on the deck, and she's never done this before. And she's like, Daddy, lay down right here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, lay down. I'm like, okay, kid. So lay down on the deck, and I'm like head to head. So her feet are this way and my feet are this way. And we're head to head. She's like, look. And I look up, and there's this white orb like
Wow.
over the house, just right there. And I'm like, ooh. And then she got up and like, cool, was out. And I'm like, so my wife's there, but everybody's there, and then my stepdaughter walks outside, and she's like, look, there's another one, and points to the other sky. So it was like north and south, and they were like right there. So I ran over and I jumped the fence with binoculars. Like I'm looking at it with binoculars. I got videos, I got photos. I jumped over the fence. My neighbor's outside, like watering his lawn. I'm like, Frank. I'm shaking him. I'm like, look, dude. And I give him the binoculars, and he's like looking at it. He's like, what is it? And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Like, look, here's another one. He's like, I don't know what that is. We looked at it for so long. It was there for so long. He was like, all right, I'm going to go eat dinner. And like, it was a couple hours, and it was just there. And then just one just went, and just were gone. So,
Wow.
I submitted that to MUFON. They're like, well, DARPA's been experimenting with some high altitude
Weather balloon.
weather balloons. Yeah. I'm like, the fuck out of here, you know? So yeah, those were like the, you know, definitive with multiple people. When I was a kid, I remember running outside. I lived near the airport, and there was a, you know, there's a Air Force branch there too. So they have F-16, 17s, and saw a light in the sky. It was being real weird. Now it must have been 10 or 12. And, you know, my dad and I went out, you know, was looking at it. It was just like a weird, weird light in the northern sky. And then two F-16s or 15s or whatever, full afterburners over our house. No lights on the F-15, just at it. And this thing just goes, is gone, you know. And I don't know, that could have been a training exercise or, you know, whatever, because they do some stuff at night, you know, they do some stuff during the day. I mean, you can hear them just rocking, but I don't know, you know. And then, yeah, those are some things, you know. And then ghosts as a kid and as a teenager, and, you know, things like that, people that were there that weren't there, and, you know, those kind of things. So yeah, you know, and then the other things I've always had is like that little voice, you know, the little voice inside of you. It's like, hey, don't do that. Or hey, that's not a good idea. Don't, you know. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, cool. You know, and that's kind of been a solid, you know, for me. And I've noticed the opposite of that, where I've heard the cricket and I'm like, you know, fuck you. And I've just done it. And I'm like, ooh, that was a bad idea. I should have not done that. I really should have listened to that one, you know.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, that's the vast majority of my experiences, you know, like that.
Yeah, that's
In a
awesome. You
nutshell.
know, what's interesting is like, you know, it's like when you see something like that, it's like I wonder how connected it is with consciousness, because like I don't know if you've ever done a CE5, but me and my friend Danielle, we went out like I think it was in October of this, like, of 2020. I was in Puerto Escondido, Mexico I was there for a couple months, and we were at the place I was renting. We had like, I had a rooftop deck, and then there was nobody else in the building. So we would go do CE5s like a couple times a week, almost every night basically. And just me and my friend Danielle would do it. And we saw all kinds of stuff. We saw like two triangle crafts. We saw like one time I saw like almost like a Gryffindor, like a white smoke lion
Wow.
flying Gryffindor. We saw a lot of weird anomalous stuff, but then I kind of got to thinking, I'm like, yeah, but we called that in. What does that mean? The fact that you can do that, what does that mean? You know, like, did we, and like we both discussed this, like, did we just sort of open our own veil to where we could see what's already there? Or did we bring stuff into us?
Or did you manifest it? That's the other part too. Did you yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah, but we were manifesting, you know, but it was with each other, you know. So like we would verify, what are you seeing? I'm seeing this. What are you seeing? Holy cow. Okay. Yeah, you know, so it's just a very so sometimes I don't know. I don't know what it is. And like, you know, my brother, he said he saw like almost like a car-sized jellyfish that was flying over his house. Like, this was probably maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and his wife wouldn't look at it. She was scared. She was very scared of it. She also would like deny it, wouldn't look at it. She was like, it was probably a drone. And my brother was like, they don't have drones that look like car-sized jellyfish. And you know, and it was like Twilight or
like Patricia
whatever.
Vaughn stuff looks like car-sized jellyfish. Like Patricia Vaughn stuff looks like that.
Oh, hers does, right? Hers really does. And
yeah.
that, yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, Jon, and we'll have to do it again sometime. And thank you. It was awesome.
Thank you so much. We'll hang out. Thanks again, Nikki. You're awesome.
You too. Bye.
Bye.